All right, fellas, we are going to hop into the new Supreme Battle Spectacle stage, and we are specifically going to take on Stage 3 versus the Three Great Saiyans.
神が行えば善となることも、人が行えばこれ皆悪となり、罪となるのだ。
Alright, so I have to admit, I feel like these first 3 stages of this new event are really not too bad. By the way, this is Exploding Rage. This was actually one of the missions. I actually saw some folks struggling with this mission. So I figured I would go ahead and post this video first of the challenge events. Go ahead and just knock out Stage 3 first. And so, okay, so I read Exploding Rage. Immediately, who comes to mind? Beast Gohan and Broly, right? Those were the two that immediately came to mind. And hey, guess what? You can run both of them on Broly's team, along with a bunch of other super bosses, right? So that's essentially what we're doing here. We are running a double AGL Broly with Beast Gohan, of course. We're running AGL and Tech Zamasu. And then we are running Fizz Goku Black. Of course, the new movie bosses leader, Broly, of course. The Tech Carnival Broly. We are definitely running him as well. So I think, you know, if you think of this team, I would argue maybe it doesn't have, like, the craziest synergy in the world. But most of the characters are Saiyans. Obviously, you know, the exceptions being the Zamasus. They are obviously not Saiyans. But again, it just kind of works. For whatever reason, this team just works. And I think ultimately it's because we have a team chock full of very powerful characters. I think that's just the bottom line. And then we fleshed out the rest of the team with the two Zamasus because, hey, they were the best of a bad bunch. The Zamasus are not completely unusable. I just feel like, yeah, man, they really kind of fell off a cliff, unfortunately, though. I mean, we all know at this point, the 2023 Worldwide Download Celebration units, they're a full year old, right? So it just, you know, it's the nature of power creep, right? Tech Zamasu can still be pretty effective. Obviously, his first appearance with his intro up, he has 80% damage reduction. That's very, very good. And then he kind of slowly loses damage reduction. You know, 60% damage reduction he has for most of the fight. And by the time you lose that, I think ideally you're intended to turn into Infinite Zamasu, right, when you activate his domain. The only issue is you're not really running a double Tech Zamasu team anymore. If you're running that guy, you're probably running him on Broly's team. And typically you want Broly to get the domain. Now, all of that being said, I handled things a little differently in this video, as you guys will see. To me, the AGL Broly on this team, he's a secondary piece to this puzzle, right? So he's obviously providing the very, very diverse leader skill. It's an incredible leader skill, right? Broly is an incredible leader for the 3 teams that he leads. So Transformation Boost, what is it? Trans Boost, Full Power, and of course Super Bosses. So you combine all 3 of those together, and he's got such a, you know, broad spectrum of units that you can use, right? So that part is really nice about Broly. But again, I think there are just some better units, I mean, quite frankly, on this team. So you've got obviously the number 1 unit in the game, probably still, is Beast Gohan. Beast Gohan, and then maybe have the number 2 unit in the game in the LR Carnival Broly, right? I don't know exactly where my standings lie, but as the great Carl Sagan would say, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So for someone to dethrone Beast Gohan, they gotta do a lot, right? So, you know, you look at like Tech Transformed UI Goku, he is better than Beast Gohan just straight up, right? It's just the problem is you gotta wait till turn 5. Beast Gohan is in his prime up until turn 5, right? So turn 5 and beyond, he loses the effects of his entrance animation, but of course, you still have the monster target ability that he has, right? So that is the way that I think he is intended to be used.
Yamero Glory! Yamero!
But the fact remains is you can use them on the same team here. So, you know, what are we even talking about, right? I mean, you've got Beast Gohan in slot 1. You've got Tech Broly in slot 2. It's that simple. You don't have to... he's really not required to be running slot 1 here. So I think I just go ahead and transform with him. I was debating on whether or not, am I going to showcase the Broly or are we just going for the win? And I decided that we were going for the win, considering we were only in the first phase. So I ultimately decided to transform with him, of course. This will get him quite a bit of extra damage. I mean, infinitely more damage. The LR base form Broly, he actually does no damage, right? He cannot super attack, so that is kind of his thing. Slot 1, he's got the massive, or excuse me, turn 1, I mean slot 1 too, but turn 1, he's got the massive 90% damage reduction. Just absolutely huge. It's going to be a long, long while until that guy ages out, I think. And then, of course, once you transform, his first couple of appearances, he has 76% damage reduction. So he's really good, man, on top of some really big defensive numbers for sure, for sure. He is also doing competent damage. I mean, you know, 55%, I've seen some screenshots, you know, of 30 million attack stats and such. So this is, I think, where I decided to go a little bit of a different way this time around. So I'm going to go ahead and use the domain right here. My thought is that in the last phase, we're going to have type advantage. And I don't know, man, it kind of felt right. The rotation was right. I was pretty comfortable just floating Broly around because I knew my rotation, the other rotation was set, right? I'm not, you know, I could potentially, if the fight goes on long enough, you could potentially activate both domains. It is possible in a long enough fight. I mean, movie Boss Rush, for instance, the Red Zone movie Boss Rush, that is, you can definitely activate both domains in that event, right? That event goes on for almost 20 turns. So you could easily do Rose's, and then later on you could do Broly's, or vice versa, for sure. You could probably activate Tech Merge Zamasu's as well, depending on how things go, if you really, really wanted to. Boy, could you... I've never activated 3 domains in one single run before. That's interesting. That's interesting. I might have to try that. Is there a way that we could get Future Gohan on there as well? Could we activate all 4 domains? I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. That might be video worthy. Now, this was obviously a bit scary. So any boss that can do multiple super attacks is a threat. No doubt about it. Because most units in the game, no matter what, you can get caught. Now, the only issue is that their stats are not very high in today's, 2024 Dokkan. It is what it is. They can super 3 times a turn, but they're only starting with 1.4 million. I mean, that is not high. Any competent unit, shit, man, even 2023 units could probably tank that for the most part, and not get you killed at least. So just 1.4 is not a lot. Now, every turn that passes, their attack is increasing by 10%. So that is certainly something, that you need to keep in mind if you have not killed them. But it's like you look at what is 10% of 1.4 million. That's 140,000. So it's going from 1.4 to 1.54. I mean, it's like, I guess, sure, it's, an increase, but So again, it is something you need to look out for. Obviously, if you're running a clear slot 2 unit in slot 1 or something, that could be devastating. I think what could have made this boss actually devastating, if they really wanted to make it challenging, is they do the lock. If they locked in your, your floating support unit or something like that, if they locked him in slot 1, and they super you twice in slot 1, you're toast. They did super Rose, you guys saw. Even they did penetrate his 66% damage reduction a bit, right? We took almost 300k. So we do have a couple of things up here.
どこへ行くんだ？お前と一緒に避難する準備だ。一人用のポットでか
？I obviously decided to pop that there. It just seemed like the time was right. We still have one more turn of the entrance animation for Beast Gohan. And this rotation, I knew, could easily tank anything that they could dish out. So I didn't even bother doing the target mechanic. It seemed a little bit early, considering we still had one more phase to go. And we're only 3 health bars, into this second phase. So you never know what can happen when you're playing Dokkan Battle. Unless, of course, you're running the full Superheroes team. Then that's an auto win button, right? But otherwise, you never really know what could happen. They could easily have tagged, AGL Zamasu. He, of course, has type advantage against them, and he's got 50% damage reduction, I believe, post EZA. Again, could he tank it and we could survive? Probably, but he would, he'd take some damage, right? Again, we had already taken, almost 300k from a super with Rose. It is interesting. They really, for whatever reason, they want Rose to be a slot 1 unit. And he's just not cut out for it, man. If he were starting the turn with like 800k defense and then 66% damage reduction, we might be cooking here as a slot 1 unit. Remember that he actually devolves, like he de-transforms, right? So he's not even in this form permanently. So that goes back down to just, what is it, 60% pre-super attack, and he's got like kind of the Tech Pan effect where she gets, the damage reduction pre-super in that first slot, so she doesn't get cooked. But it ends up that they almost always super after she super attacks, right? That's how Tech Pan works. But we know that Rose's defense can definitely become competent after he supers quite a few times. And his attack stats can get pretty juicy, for sure, in this form. So, I don't know, man. It just felt right, so I just decided to go for it. We also had a fair... I think we had 3 Rainbow Key Spheres. I'll tell you what really helps this guy is this 33% attack and defense he's getting on every attack. It's just in his passive every attack, and then it resets, right? It resets every turn. But boy, oh boy, you combine that with the attack... the super attack effect, and then of course the other buffs that he's getting from his passive, and all of the attacks he's doing, he can really output some good damage. Now, I have full crit on mine, and you do need to crit this guy. You basically do. He doesn't have a super high damage threshold, but he does have one. You'll see Rose in a bit. Yeah, right here. Like, he's not doing any damage, because every time you hit this guy, his defense goes up. So it's a similar but opposite fight to the Kid Buu fight, right? I think that it's like, yeah, the defense is great. So if you're rocking all 55% units with no crit in the hidden potential, or no crit in their passive, no crit in the hidden potential system, you're going to struggle in here. There's no question about that. But if you're rocking a lot of characters with crit built in, or just, putting up 19 million attack stats, 20 million attack stats, 30 million attack stats. Shit, man, Cell Max can get up to like 50 million attack stats. This guy is just toast, man. He can't do shit to you. And this is with the damage reduction active in all of those attacks. He's got a very high defense right there. I don't know the calcs, obviously right off the tip top, but he was rocking some really, really good defense. Like I said, that last portion of his passive, or I don't know if it's written last, but that one portion of his passive where he's getting 33% every single attack, boy, that really, really adds up. So any subsequent attack, he's getting a lot, like a big attack stat. Like, it's a big jump. So I really liked what he had to offer in this fight. And again, it ended up working out in the end. Considering I also did want to minorly showcase the Tech Carnival Broly, I think I decided to use the target mechanic here.
この程度か。
So as I was saying, I did kind of want to minorly showcase the Tech Broly. That didn't end up happening right here, because Beast Gohan, I think, just finishes him off. I decided that, you know, I wasn't going to let AGL Broly try to steal the show and take all of his attacks and everything else. It could have buffed his stats a little bit, of course, like, no doubt about it. Either was a good choice for sure, I think, in this particular case. Typically speaking, with Broly, you do want to get his domain pretty much at all costs, particularly against the high damage super attack bosses. But unfortunately for this Super Saiyan Goku, he is not that. We were fairly close at some... Were we ever close to activating Berserker? We're literally at just full health. I think we took that one super, and that was pretty much all the damage we took the whole fight. And we're already back up to full health, so... Oh, Beast Gohan didn't finish it off. Okay, it's going to be AGL Broly here. Okay, I mean, I'll take that. I'll take that for sure. But in the end, guys, this really wasn't a tough fight at all. If you use, you know, a replica of this team, you could easily squeeze on, you know, an additional character here. No doubt about it. But if you use some sort of replica of this team, you should be able to get the job done. But that is it, guys. The mission is complete with no items, no problem at all. Slap a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you are new. I love you guys. Thank you for your support. It means the world. And I will catch you in the next one later.